Welcome back to Putin Football First. I'm Tony Tonmirovic, and to my right is John Mirovic. And last night we joined Vladimirovich Putin at the opening ceremony and eventually the first game of the World Cup Russia 2018. I'm so excited. It's finally started. We're here.
Welcome everybody. Thank you. And a nod to Saudi Arabia. What a match. What an opening match. The Battle of the Minnows. The Battle of the Blue, whatever we'd call it. This was the worst two teams in the World Cup, and this game did not turn out the way everybody thought it would.
The Saudis are still playing. They're still hoping to score.
Rumours that the Saudis were drugged are only rumours at this stage, but 5-0 to Russia, nobody picked that. We did talk in Coach's Corner yesterday about how to undo the Saudi Arabians. Turns out it didn't take much.
No, and I think they were listening to what you were saying.
I know, Craig
Just wait, Craig Foster verbaled you. He stole your ideas.
Indeed,
Mind you, he did speak for about 2 hours straight, so he had a couple of original ideas of his own. About
he did, one or two. But look, social media, all over social media was how shite the game was. I disagree. Saudi Arabia were shite, there's no doubt about that. But if you watch the replays, there are some flashes of brilliance from the Russian team. And look, I've been hearing from Russia that from cab drivers to sandwich makers, every Russian that you meet is, we're crap. We're not good at this, we're good at this. And they proved them wrong last night. The Russians came out and
Jonathan's like this to Russian cab drivers. I've
met none, but I've heard about a few. But no, credit to Russia. They came out, they did play the right game plan against Saudi Arabia. Yes, Saudi Arabia were asleep, you'd have to say, but there was some good football coming out of those Russian guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the next game.
First 10 minutes of the game, I honestly thought, gee, this is really tight, right? Both teams were playing it really, really tight, and every time that the Saudis got the ball, you could see a line of 4 defenders, 4 midfielders. They had 8 outfield players behind the ball and the keeper.
Unusual for them.
Yeah, so the Saudi Arabians needed to keep possession. At the end of the match, one of the stats that stood out, all right, and this is very Arsenal, you know that I'm an Arsenal supporter, so this is from the Arsene Wenger playbook. Saudi Arabia completed 508 passes for 0 goals. Russia completed 300. Russia completed 388 passes for 5 goals. So again, there's no point playing that possession style football
if you can't hit the side of a barn with your forwards.
If you're not incisive at the other end of the field, and the entire game. I love the graphics too at the end.
Where the goals went in and where the goals missed.
Exactly. They had no shots on target. No. Not a single shot on target.
As we said yesterday, could not hit a bus if it was in front of them. Unbelievable. And they proved that last night. So Saudi Arabia, I'm afraid to say that it's probably not your World Cup this time. But good luck in the rest of the games.
Yeah. They've only got Uruguay coming next.
Look, 3-0.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, to Saudi Arabia.
And Egypt, could be another 5-0.
They will be the first team eliminated from this World Cup. Because they're Group A, by the time they go through Group, all the way down to H and then start over again, if they lose their second match.
Look, the key thing will be to see how Russia plays against Egypt and Uruguay. But I have to say, what they did to their home crowd last night was amazing. I think Russia will be buzzing, and I think the players will be feeling very confident going into the next few games.
Definitely, and a tournament needs a good run by the host nation.
It does.
Oh, by the way, this noise you can hear in the background, construction noise, we're building a bigger set for Putin Football First.
Yeah, the studio audience is getting... Look, it's doubled in the last couple of days, so we're going to need a bigger boat.
Hi, Mum.
And is that who it is?
Yeah.
I wonder who it was in the corner.
Interesting thing about last night as well, you were saying in your Coach's Corner from a few episodes ago that the Russian coach, what's his name again?
Cherchesov.
Bless you. He's the only goalkeeper, or former goalkeeper, who is now a coach. And listening to Martin Tyler, he was actually the goalkeeper for Russia in the 1994 World Cup.
He was.
When Russia won only one of the other 2 matches that they won as Russia, beating Cameroon 6-1.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting about that match in terms of history? Yes, it was the one. So Russia scored 6 goals. One of those players scored 5 goals. Oleg Solenko set a new World Cup record. Hasn't been beaten. Scored 5 goals in one single World Cup match. However, at the other end of the field, the one goal was scored by none other than Roger Miller. He became the oldest person to score as a 42-year-old. So after that match, all of the focus was on Roger Miller. Very little on
Not
Oleg
the guy that
Solenko.
scored 5.
Nothing on Oleg Solenko, who just set a new World Cup record
His
scoring 5.
grandfather at the other end going, "Oh,
But he was the goalkeeper who let that goal in.
He was.
There you go.
And if you watch the footage in Coach's Corner, I think we have that footage in Coach's Corner.
Was he bald back then?
No, he had a lovely set of hair.
there
He
you
was
go.
also thin and could jump.
Like Ronaldo.
Not high enough in
The
that
Brazilian
game.
Ronaldo.
Yes. Yeah, so enough about Saudi Arabia. It's great to see the host nation winning. Let's talk about what has to be called the lamest opening ceremony in the history of the World Cup.
Can you remind me who missed the opening ceremony?
Well,
I don't know who it is.
I think history was made. It's the first World Cup opening ceremony where one of the 3 performers didn't make it because he was literally stuck in traffic.
That's hilarious.
Jason Derulo, if you're watching, I don't think you'll get another gig, but it was great to see Grandpa Robbie Williams out there. And who was the female singer?
The aria singer.
That's right. One of the most memorable setups for a World Cup opening ceremony.
Look it up,
I think we put about 10 performers on a football field, spread them out, nice carpet that looked ironically like a football.
Look, I don't know about you, but whenever I think about football, or particularly Russian football, I instantly think Robbie Williams.
Me too.
The two just go.
They do go
hand
together.
in hand.
The same sort of charisma.
How terrific was it to see him up there singing all of his hits
in English.
in English? Had nothing to do with football. Let me entertain you. Probably was.
And look, the other really disappointing part was, Vlad, come on. We got some lame-ass speech in the middle of it.
Vladimirich Putin. They had to put his middle name.
Indeed. But, the shirt was on. He wasn't on a horse. He wasn't on a tank.
No.
He was standing there in a suit giving some lame-ass conversation about how this is a friendly country, and a shout-out to the Ukraine. And, no, we wanted more from him. I wanted him on a horse with a gun in the middle of the fields, but no.
Where were the dancing bears?
Yeah, and look, there was an interesting piece of footage after Russia scored, I think the 3rd goal. There was, in one room alone, was I think Prince or King of Saudi Arabia, Infantino in the middle, and Putin on the right-hand side.
Like this.
Russia had just scored 3 or 4 times. They're all just looking at each other. And, the caption for that is definitely, "Our money is worth more than yours." And
we've organised it. I'll tell you what, at 3-0... I was looking at it, and Saudi Arabia had a chance to score. They actually had the ball inside the Russian 6-yard box.
Not 3-1.
And I thought, it's going to be 3-1. It's going to be 3-1. It's going to be the prediction. It's the prophecy. It's the prophecy. And they cleared their lines. They still couldn't. And then, they couldn't hit the target from within the 6-yard box.
No. Like I said, side of a barn. But hey, the game's over. Saudi Arabia will probably be feeling a little bit sorry for themselves today, but Russia will be on top of the world.
I liked Infantino when he came straight on after Putin, and that has to be the hardest gig in the world. And he looked to me like, if you put the volume right down, he looked like a stand-up comedian. Hey, how you going there? Yeah, I looked up to the side.
He took Thursday, try the veal.
He was working the room.
He was, and what a big room it was. But Robbie Williams pissing about on the sideline while they roll the carpet up, right? Finishing with, I think it was a bird to camera.
Something. Yeah. He flipped the bird to camera. Have you got footage of that? That was the moment where he found out he wasn't going to get paid for the gig.
That was
his response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough too. So
my story about Robbie Williams that I'll always remember. He had a rivalry many years ago with Noel Gallagher from Oasis, and Noel Gallagher famously referred to Robbie Williams as the fat one from Take That.
Well,
so that's always stuck with me.
Well, there we are. He's reached the pinnacle of his career, singing alone in an empty field as the opening ceremony for the Russian World Cup.
Breaking news too, as well. Boy George has just tweeted to Robbie Williams he wants his red suit back.
Boom tish. There we are. Thank you.
And here's Robbie's response.
So we've whinged enough about the opening ceremony.
I said opening ceremonies were just a tragedy waiting to happen.
And you were right. I got the result right. You got the opening ceremony score right. Now we're going to talk a little bit now about the biggest news to come out of Russia, apart from the whitewash of Saudi Arabia, and this is comedy gold. Somebody's got to do a routine around this. The Spanish coach fired 24 hours before the World Cup. I mean, if it wasn't Vladimir Putin with an AK-47, the Spanish turned out to be the ones to shoot themselves in the foot.
So let me get this right. Was he the assistant coach or the actual...
He was the actual coach.
He was the actual
and I'm not
head coach.
Yep, that's
so
right.
I'm waiting
there's
for
a
you to
coach's corner.
I'm waiting for you to do all the coach's corners so that I'll become familiar with all
that's
this.
Right. Well,
so he was the
got to do a
actual
new
head
one
coach.
now. Yes, he was. And what happened was it became obvious that despite 3 weeks ago signing a deal with the Spanish FA to be their national coach until 2020, he'd been negotiating in the back rooms and was not yet announced to be the new coach of Real Madrid. Thanks, guys.
This is all your fault.
Obviously, my CV was lost.
This is all your fault because you didn't get the job at Real Madrid.
I know.
You've destabilised the entire Spanish team.
That's right. Well, serves them right. But so the head of the Spanish FA, when it came out that he'd been negotiating behind the scenes, behind everyone's back, he was going to be Real's new coach, was a bit pissed about it.
It all comes out.
And he sort of went, no, you don't do that. He's probably got a point. The national team should be a pinnacle. And if you're negotiating to get a better gig while you're the national coach, you probably shouldn't be the national coach.
That's it.
Ironically, they've put Hierro in as their new coach one day
former player
from the World Cup. I don't know I believe he is a former coach. I believe he has coached second division in Spain. I'll be doing some homework on that. People will come up in Coach's Corner.
If it's the person I'm thinking of, he was the centre back for Spain for many, many years, and his name actually literally means iron in English.
Well, I think Spain will be ironed through this World Cup as a result. Yeah. Ramos has had a shocker over 2 or 3 weeks running into this. Every single interview he's gone to, that's what they bring up. And he's over it. And the first press conference he did yesterday, thinking, great, they're not going to ask me about this. Right? They're all asking him about the coach being fired. The look on his face was priceless. I think Spain are gone.
Yeah, look, nothing like a little bit of instability leading into a World Cup. Speaking of instability, going back to Saudi Arabia, isn't it sad to watch their capitulation and knowing that Bert had them and had them qualify ahead of Australia? They finished top 2, we finished underneath them, and how they have their star has fallen, and yet now under Bert our star has risen. Hopefully,
I don't want to speak too soon.
We won't speak too soon. But just how a coach makes all the difference to the style of play.
Look, the two things that influence a game most are either a bad referee or a great coach.
Speaking of referees, he had the Argentinian referee had a terrific match. I thought he could have issued a yellow card a little bit earlier in the match for a blatant actual bit of physical sort of. But it was like 3/4 of the way through the game.
Yep,
Apart from that, I thought he was, and he had great man management.
He did.
Not trying to be sexist, but personnel
management.
Person management, as we call it these days. He had great. He's very expressive. He told the players, no more play acting, no more. Yep. Yeah, that's it. No more, pushing and shoving in the box. I thought he controlled the game very well. Let it flow. And
he was a very school teacher like.
Yeah.
But look, I think a comment has to be made. I was fearful before the game that we would see controversy with a reffing decision, controversy with the VAR.
No VAR.
Some kind of. There's been some favouritism to Russia. Nothing. I couldn't fault the refereeing performance. Yeah. So we won't mention it again.
Wonderful.
There we are.
Let's take a break.
And welcome back. I got you back. Welcome back. Now the serious part of the show, we're going to preview tonight's games. Look, before we do that, Tony, I've just realised what a stupid thing we've done, taking on doing this every day. I got about 3 hours sleep last night, and that's probably being generous. And the rest of the World Cup is another 63 games. I'm feeling a little bit fatigued already. How are you feeling?
Considering that in the space of 2 days I lost my satchel, and last night I lost my mobile phone and my glasses.
Distracted a little bit by what we're doing here?
I'm not suffering from a lack of sleep at all.
Okay, tonight's games. There are 3 games on tonight. The first game is actually the last of the Group A games.
Yep.
Now, Tony, who's playing tonight?
Egypt coming up against Uruguay. Now, I think both of those teams sitting back, having watched the opening game, knowing that one team has got a -5 goal differential, they're going to fancy themselves finishing either 1 or 2 in this group. Uruguay are going to be pretty strong and hard to beat.
Yes.
The X factor is going to be whether Salah plays for Egypt, the talisman. Again,
word is he is. At this point, he's playing.
Yeah, he's going to play. And again, I'm looking at the referee. One of the Uruguayan players. We've got Suarez. Hello to Suarez.
The good thing is he doesn't like Egyptian food.
He liked Italian food 4 years ago, so taking a bite.
That's right. Now,
actually, can I just segue again? Can you just find there's a Wiggles clip of Khalid?
If Suarez is feeling hungry at the World Cup, he takes a bite.
He takes a bite.
If he's tough.
Keep going.
Look, I think if Egypt do play Mo Salah, they have to. They have to. Because of that goal difference, they're going to have to go hell for leather. Egypt can't win by a huge margin unless they play him and play a style that suits him.
Yeah, that's it. And again, hopefully the referee will protect the gifted player, because I think if he's still got a shoulder injury, someone's going to be in the Uruguayan side is going to be earmarked to take him out.
Suarez will be aiming for Mo Salah's shoulder most of the game, but I think Egypt can take it if Mo Salah is playing.
Yeah, that's it. Look, I think the way the World Cup qualifiers are structured all over the world, there's a lot wrong with it. The South American qualifiers, one big group of 20 teams. I mean, that's just insane. Or 10 teams. They play, 20 games. That needs to be broken up.
It's not good for the World Cup.
But the African qualifiers is even harder. 52 teams. They then break them down to 25, and they split them up into 5 groups of 5 teams each. It's only the team that finishes first that qualifies. That's it. There's no second chance. There's no playoff. It is the hardest way to get to the World Cup through Africa.
No, I would certainly agree. What's the second game tonight, Tony?
Okay, about 1 o'clock in the morning, we then flip across to Group B, Morocco versus Iran.
Now, what I love about this is Iran. Iran is one of my dark horses to make the semis this year.
Yep.
Wow. The Iranian team has been outstanding for the last 12 months. They've certainly been the number 1 team in Asia. They have a coach who, not many people know of him, and we'll cover this in Coach's Corner in a minute, but he's got a pedigree like you would not believe. It shows in the Iranian team's play. They were the first Asian team, I think, to qualify, or very early on they qualified. He's been a steady influence on them for some time, and he is a strategist. He knows. He worked under Ferguson at Manchester United for a long time, and there's not much he doesn't know. So I'm picking Iran for this game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think they'll be too strong.
And it would be nice to see an Asian team not perform like shite. Last game.
4 o'clock in the morning, huge game, quality written all over this one. Portugal against a destabilised Spain. Before the whole coaching controversy, you would have picked Spain to edge out Portugal. Now I think they're going to be very, very evenly matched. Portugal build around one player, CR7. We've mentioned it before here that during the Euro final, when Cristiano Ronaldo went off, Portugal actually played better as a team. They ended up winning that game against France of all teams. This will be a really good. It's one of these games that'll either peter out to a 0-0 draw because they'll cancel each other out, or there'll be. But either way, the passing, the quality will be just outstanding.
Another really interesting point will be who wins out of. You've got Portugal and Spain playing. We've got Ramos, who has a reputation for absolutely poleaxing the best player on the other team, but in this case, it's his teammate Cristiano Ronaldo. My guess is the now ex-Spanish coach has had a word to the men in the rooms and gone, "Listen, you two, none of that.
Yep.
I want you both on the field." So I can't wait to see the Ramos Cristiano.
That famously actually happened back in the day when Milan in Italy were a powerhouse.
Encyclopedia again.
And the then coach of Milan, I think it was Arrigo Sacchi, had a word to Ruud Gullit and said, "Don't go nuts at the World Cup. We need you for the next Serie A season." To which Ruud Gullit did what Robbie Williams did. Let's have a look. To Arrigo Sacchi, he's playing. We're playing for the World Cup, so that does happen.
It does. So watch out for that one tonight. And Tony, what's your tip for Portugal-Spain?
I'll go a 2-1 victory to Spain.
2-1 victory to Spain. I'm going for a draw, just to make life interesting in that group.
3-3 draw, 7-7 draw.
And look, that sums up the games that are on tonight. If you'd like to be a reviewer on our show and review any of the games, if you have a personal penchant for any of the teams, we want to hear from you. Jump onto Facebook, give us a message, and we'll get you in here to review a game. Saves us having to watch 3 each night.
Love a French-based person in Newcastle.
Oh, wouldn't that be good? Wouldn't that be good? So
just so we could just take you apart, when the Socceroos win.
Yeah, moving right along, Tony.
Sorry, I've given a prediction
on
for the
all
game
of that,
already.
The coach's corner today is,
Yes.
of course, the Iranian coach.
Yes.
Let's cut to that. Harrison? Carlos Queiroz is one of the most experienced coaches in this year's World Cup, having led no less than 3 national teams to World Cup final tournaments and Iran for 2 tournaments in a row now. Coaching Iran is one of the most difficult tasks in the world, as the team suffers more than the usual setbacks year on year. Sanctions and stigma mean that even finding teams to play friendlies against them is often impossible. And yet Queiroz and his brave team of young footballers almost defeated the mighty Argentina in 2014, but for a typical wonder strike from Messi and a suspicious failure of the referee to award an obvious penalty. Queiroz is one of the game's great coaches. He has coached 4 national teams, Real Madrid, and spent 6 years on and off as Alex Ferguson's right-hand man at Manchester United. His winning record as a coach stands at 55%. Alex Ferguson described Queiroz in his autobiography as brilliant, just brilliant. Outstanding, an intelligent, meticulous man. He was the closest you could be to being the Manchester United manager without actually holding the title. The team he brings to this World Cup has not lost a match since their 2014 exit from the last World Cup. I don't think there's another team in this tournament that can boast that stat. Undefeated for 22 matches. They are easily the top-ranked Asian team, and despite being in a group with both Spain and Portugal, would not surprise anyone if they make it through the group phase. He's a very, very proud coach of his Iranian charges and says this time around they are better, younger and boast more European experience than ever. They still battle the odds, however, and have to dig deep to maintain their self-respect and love of the game. In 2014, FIFA retained Iran's World Cup qualification money because the banks are not allowed to transfer it to the country. Without that money, their players weren't paid for their achievement of reaching the World Cup finals. This would cause the complete disintegration of many of the world's top-flight teams, but not this one. Iran didn't lose a single one of their 10 games in qualifying for this tournament and conceded only twice. If any team can overcome the odds this year in this World Cup, it's this one. And Queiroz is just the magician to lead them there.
That was extraordinarily interesting, and you cannot get a bigger rap as a coach than having Sir Alex Ferguson say that a lot of the success, or most of the success, was due to your second in charge. So this guy really knows what he's doing. So yeah, we'll watch Iran with some interesting favouritism. I think they will do well.
Dark horse. And look, on that note, I'd just like to give a shout out to Val. Val is a barber in Melbourne. He works for a group of people that know us well. Hello to the guys at Manhor on Little Collins.
How do you pronounce that?
Little Burke Street, Manhor. And Val is Iranian. I was chatting with him just last week in Melbourne. Very passionate Iranian football fan. And Val, I hope they win.
Yeah.
So we've reached the point in the show where we're ready to sign off. Before we go, we just want to give a big shout out to everyone in Newcastle and let you know that there are big screens and food offers on Saturday night for the big Australia-France game. We have the Sydney Junction Hotel, the Clarendon Hotel, the Green Roof Hotel. All of them we know have big screens up. We will be at one, if not more of them, maybe just one. But Newcastle people, get out there and celebrate. And again, send us messages on Facebook. Hopefully we'll be there. We'll get some footage of you, and a big night coming up. We also hope to be hearing from Laurie McKenna before the game as well. So watch tomorrow's show before the game.
Nothing better than watching the Socceroos play on the big screen with a big crowd of people, like-minded people who just want the Socceroos to get a good result.
And here is hoping we don't do a Saudi Arabia. Okay, so that's about it. A big shout out to our sponsors. Murray's Brewery. Murray's Brewery. Yeah, we love your beer, love your
still
stuff.
trying to fill those glasses.
Absolutely. Feel free to send anything down to us that you might want to here in Hunter Street.
Love your work.
And look, until tomorrow, good luck everyone tonight. Good luck, Tony, watching the 3 games tonight. This will be a marathon.
This will be the
thanks
real
for joining us. We'll see you all soon. Okay.
Before we go, let's have a look at one last photo opportunity that caught my eye during the opening match. It was at the very start where the referees lined up and the 2 captains lined up. This is how you do a walk-off.
And with that in mind, we'll see you all tomorrow. Again?